Hey folks, this is Fernando doing another video for More Survivalists. Continuing with the previous topic, this is part 2 of the best 10 items to stock up on for barter, but also things that would be useful for survival in general as well. Trying to tackle as much possible scenarios as possible. In the first part of the video, I made reference to 5 specific items or group of items that would be not only useful for bartering, but would be useful in general if there's not even a disaster, such as water and food, things you would be needing nonetheless. Medical supplies as well. I also talked about how important it is to have a certain amount of fuel so as to get by when utilities are not working, when there's no electricity. So if you haven't seen it, I suggest going back to part 1. Part 2, I'm going to be talking about the things I've actually seen myself be in demand in a post-economic collapse Argentina. And it's, it's not really many of the things that I talked about in part 1. Those are things that are in high demand in certain scenarios, in certain situations where people are struggling to stay alive, maybe because of a large-scale disaster, maybe because of an artificially created situation where they find themselves cut out from the exterior world, thinking of surviving tyranny, surviving war, civil war maybe, and people are basically brought to a level where they need to just stay alive. What are the things that you need to stay alive? So that's the things that, of course, are going to be of value. And they happen also to be things that you use on normal basis, disaster or not. So it does make sense because you're going to be using them nonetheless, even if nothing happens, as it is most likely. But when there's an economic collapse, when there's this weird reality that you're caught in, where things just don't work as they used to anymore, and maybe this is something that you would end up seeing in your country if there's maybe not a full-scale economic collapse, but a very serious economic downturn. You're probably going to be seeing a similar situation, a similar scenario as I saw in Argentina. And here is where the first thing that I would recommend for something to have in terms of an economic collapse: precious metals. You're thinking of wanting to be ready for an economic collapse. Precious metals is the first thing that, without a doubt. The thing about precious metals is that it's the thing that some of the most powerful people in the planet at a certain time in history managed to take away from you when they got rid of the link between paper money, currency, being backed by gold. When they got rid of that, they took away from you the security provided by precious metals. By buying precious metals, you get that back. And again, we're talking about an economic collapse or a very serious economic downturn, and people are losing faith on whatever paper currency you have in mind, may that be euros, dollars, or whatnot. When that happens, I can assure you the thing that people want, it's something solid. There's nothing as nice ringing as gold and silver when people are losing faith in paper currency. You just grab one of those pieces of paper with drawings and colors in it, and you realize that sound money, actual metal, is it's unbeatable. It's the time machine that every single Argentine person wished they had. Out of the 40 million Argentine citizens, every single one of them wished they had turned every single cent they had saved into precious metals before the economy collapsed, and had those in their home, in their hands, holding it, not in the bank and not out of their reach. So if you're thinking of if you're thinking of sending me an email asking what should I stock up on for an economic collapse, get precious metals. At the very least, if you don't even see an economic collapse, as it is most likely, then you will at least have the gold and silver. If you do see an economic collapse, you will be hopefully you will have internet. You will be thanking me for following this advice. Second thing that has quite a bit of value in an economic collapse, it's guns, and that's because you actually do need them. Guns have this thing of, and this is something that I saw again happening in Argentina. Guns kept their value, and it's basically happening in US as well. Some of you guys, and I know quite a few of you, that bought large amounts of AK-47 kits back in the day, for very little money. You would be selling those after that for quite a bit of a profit. Guns have an intrinsic value. They're not gold and silver, but they're close. They're definitely not gold and silver. They don't have an intrinsic value of its own, and it's not a value that has been kept through thousands of years. It's not as solid as that, but it is something that has a value of its own, no doubt about that. And the thing about it is that you can actually use it to defend yourself and keep yourself safe. If you're gonna be looking at having something for an economic collapse, you have to seriously take into account the social unrest and the crime problem, because you will be seeing those. Absolutely, it's unavoidable. And if an economic collapse does take place, you will be seeing violence, and you will be seeing crime escalate to some serious levels. And it's not going to be going away. It's going to be staying there for a long time. It's going to be, you measure it in decades, not in years even. It's a completely different reality. It takes generations to rebuild a country when it goes through a true economic collapse. Like going to hell and having to start all over from zero. You don't fix that in a couple of years. Not by any means. Again, you have to understand it's a little bit different what we saw in Argentina. I understand that there's been economic crisis in other places. You have Greece. Lots of similarities between what happened in Argentina, what happened in Greece, Iceland as well. It's crazy to think of people protesting, holding up the same signs. Bankers, thieves, give us our money back, or lock all politicians and bankers up and such. In spite of the language difference, the signs people would have are basically the same. Now, in the case of Greece, for example, as bad as it is, you're within Europe. You're within, you have that safety net of some sort. Awful situation in Greece, absolutely. But it hasn't, it didn't go to hell in a handbasket like it did in Argentina, where, actually the president resigned. It was a complete mess and all that. It's a worse situation, and the crime problem was indeed worse, and maybe because of that, guns. Guns would be priced in Argentina. Guns would be priced in dollars. If you had guns, a Browning high power, maybe that it's a very popular firearm in Argentina because it's what's provided and issued to the police across the entire country. Lots of Browning and Fabricaciones Militares high powers. And after the economic collapse, it was almost like having gold, because that thing kept its value. And if before the crisis it was worth 300 pesos, all of a sudden you were selling it for 900 pesos, because you were basically sticking to the true value of the thing, to the true value of the gun, converting it almost like as if it was priced in dollars. And that's a reality of gun stores in Argentina. Most of their, especially the new guns, and this is because of importation, since they're importing them from abroad. They don't really have much of an option other than selling them for their dollar value. It's an imported item. But in spite of that, even the guns produced locally or in the used market, like the Fabricaciones Militares, High Power, or even Versa, which is a known brand within the farmers community. Versa, they're made in Argentina, but the price pretty much stayed along with the lines of what the price would have been in dollars. Again, because of materials used in the construction are to a certain degree imported. The machinery needed to actually build those guns locally are imported as well. So the costs they have don't completely escape the difference with the dollar in spite of being locally produced. And again, it's something that you understand has a specific value because of its usefulness in keeping yourself safe during a post-economic collapse society. It's kind of a priority. So, interesting that those two make the top of the list: precious metals and guns. And there's parallelisms with the main concerns people have after an economic collapse. If you ask any Argentine person, even today, if you ask any Argentine person which are the two most important main concerns that they have, they will tell you that it's inflation, and they will tell you that it's crime. The risk of getting hurt on a daily basis because of crime, the uncertainty of the shook up economy and constant inflation. And these two are addressed by these two items that I'm mentioning: the gold and silver protecting you from inflation, the guns protecting you from crime. Does make sense, a lot of it. Moving on down, well, this is something that I mentioned in this older video, toys, which is something that when I left Argentina, I saw that the thing is this: when we left Argentina, we quickly tried to sell as much stuff as we could. And it was interesting to notice, of course, some things being easier to sell than others. Furniture, for example, was not easy to sell, especially not quickly. Guns, those that I did sell, not all of them, but those that I did sell, they sold pretty well, especially the good stuff. Glocks, some of the more, nicer quality stuff, like, well-known brands, those things, or some highly regarded collector type of firearms. Those things were definitely easy to sell. One of the things that caught our attention was how easy toys were to sell. And even today, toys, one of the easiest ways of making money for anyone that travels in Argentina is selling brand name clothes, which are extremely expensive, but also toys. Toys are very expensive in Argentina because of the restrictions in importation, because of the dollar, the US dollar price for everything brought from abroad. And you know what? Parents want their kids to be happy. One of the things that make kids happy is definitely toys. So when we were selling most of what we had before leaving, we saw that toys were quite easy to sell, in Mercado Libre, which is kind of like a Craigslist. May not seem like a big deal, but if wherever it is that you are, in Europe, in US, doesn't matter where, if all of a sudden imports are restricted, and you see lots of the things, all these cheap China things that used to be so abundant before suddenly start coming in short supply. You will be seeing people appreciating and going after these things quite a bit, and be willing to pay in this post-economic collapse situation. They will be willing to pay dearly for these items that are no longer making it across the border. That would be number 3. I had toys there in the list. Number 4, I have body armor, and that's something that I definitely saw being in high demand in Argentina, especially within the community of people that I knew. Some of my, the handful of closer, like-minded friends from my gun club, or even the people that were more acquaintances rather than very close friends. But very common thing for me would be being in the gun club in Argentina, talking with a friend, and all of a sudden maybe mentioning something, like a new flashlight that I had or was about to review or whatnot, or I bought and such, or body armor was definitely one of the things that caught people's attention, because people don't think about body armor until they actually need it. And I think this has a lot to do with the crime situation being so bad in Argentina. In US, you see this a lot in the forums, people saying, gun guys having tons of guns, but no body armor. They're not thinking about getting shot. No one thinks about getting shot until bullets are hitting closer to home. And when that happens, people start finding a newfound appreciation for body armor. When crime is not bad, it's more about collecting cool-looking tactical guns and having a nice collection of them. Shooting them, being good with them. You see this a lot as well. Some guys are very good at it. They have very good training, which is crucial, very important. Suggest everyone do that. They have their nice guns and they train with them. Not all of them have good body armor, and that's the kind of thing you start appreciating when people close to you start getting shot, and you see, damn, this could happen to me. It's no longer just about training with your rifle, with your handgun or whatnot. It's about, one day I may catch a bullet, and I'd rather do it while wearing body armor. And when you start seeing home invasions becoming more common, people breaking into houses, and people getting shot in these home invasions incidents, that's when the gears start grinding, and you start thinking, okay, someone breaks in, bullets start flying. I would much rather have body armor in me. Then that's when you start saying, okay, I will not just have my gun, my flashlight. I also want to have body armor to put on. When something goes bump in the night, and you're used to always it being nothing. When you see that the chances of actually being something increase, when you start hearing some of the stories that I would be hearing constantly, people just one day waking up to someone kicking their door down. What do you do when that happens? Do you just grab your gun? Well, if I have a second more, I grab my gun. I also put body armor. I have my flashlight with me. And if bullets start flying, I would much rather have that. So in that environment, whenever I would be maybe talking in the coffee house, in the gun club with a friend, and someone listened to that, and they would just approach, so can you get body armor? How would that work out? Could you get some for me? Or even stuff like a good powerful flashlight. If you had one, they would I'll give you the money. Can you get it for me? Money's not a problem. I'll get you the money. Can you get it for me? One of the other things is C-locks. Hemostatic agent for stopping blood loss. You would explain what that is to some of the guys that didn't know what it did. and they would say, man, that would be something that could be useful if you ever get shot. So could you get one of those for me? How much does it cost? And you would tell the price, $40-50, doesn't matter. It's something that could definitely save your life if something like that happens. So those are all things that when shit gets real, people start appreciating more. Trying to wrap up finally 5 ammunition ammo for stockpiling as a barter item thing. Again, the barter thing doesn't really work as you would think it does, but for those that shoot, ammo is something that you use, and you've seen it in recent times in US with the shortages of ammunition. Realistically, you're not really bartering much with it. People that have a lot of ammo have sold a lot of it for quite a bit of money, did some money in that. I wouldn't be playing with levering prices of ammo. I would just have it for myself. Since you're shooting, you're going to be using it eventually. It has quite a bit of a shelf life, doesn't go bad, and you're going to be using it nonetheless. So ammo is definitely something that if you're going to be buying stuff and thinking of something that would be of value in a post-economic collapse thing, sure, ammo will have a certain value. Notice that it's not top of the list. If that is your only concern, precious metals is definitely it. It's a way in which you protect yourself from the economic collapse. But ammo is like guns. It's the kind of thing that keeps its value. So it's cars. Cars is a very popular thing during a post-economic collapse situation, especially buying new ones and paying them in installments, like monthly payments. That's a great way that people in countries with high inflation find so as to save money from the inflation that keeps on growing. You keep on paying for the car or real estate property as time goes by in money that is losing its value. So it does make sense. Folks, that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, remember to subscribe for more stuff coming up. Share the video if you like it. Take care. Have a great day. See you on our next video.